The Archive Ship Ptolemy drifted through the Kepler expanse, a region of space where stars came to die. Commander Idris Khane stood at the observation deck, watching a white dwarf collapse into a neutron star 3 light-years away. The light was 2 centuries old by the time it reached his eyes, but the spectacle never dulled. He had spent 40 years aboard the Ptolemy, mapping the graveyards of the galaxy. Dead stars, black holes, neutron stars, magnetars, and the stranger things that lurked between them. The Cartographic Authority had sent him here because he was the best, and because no one else wanted the assignment. Mapping dead stars was lonely, dangerous, and profoundly unsettling work. Every reading reminded you that even the mightiest things in the universe eventually burned out. The anomaly appeared on Sensor Sweep 47, buried in routine data that the ship's AI had flagged as unremarkable. Idris found it himself during his nightly review, a practice his crew called obsessive, but which had uncovered 9 previously unknown stellar remnants over the decades. The readings didn't make sense. There was a gravitational signature where no object should exist. Not a black hole, the mass was too low. Not a neutron star, the radiation profile was wrong. Not a brown dwarf, there was no infrared signature. It was something that exerted gravity without producing any electromagnetic radiation at all. A dark object, perfectly invisible unless you were looking at the way it bent the light of stars behind it. Idris pulled up the archival records. No one had ever mapped this region before. He was the first. It took the Ptolemy 3 weeks to reach the coordinates. During that time, the anomaly grew stranger. Long-range scans revealed that the dark object was not alone. There were 7 of them, arranged in a perfect hexagonal pattern with one at the center. The geometry was too precise to be natural. Stars didn't arrange themselves in hexagons. Idris had mapped thousands of stellar remnants and gravitational wells, and nothing in nature produced this kind of symmetry. His science officer, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, ran the probability calculations and confirmed what Idris already suspected. The arrangement was artificial. Something had placed these objects here deliberately. The crew of the Ptolemy, accustomed to the quiet solitude of mapping dead stars, suddenly found themselves facing a very different kind of discovery. Idris retreated to his quarters to think. The room was spare, functional, decorated only with hand-drawn star charts he had made over the decades. He sat at his desk and stared at the hexagonal arrangement on his personal display. 40 years of mapping the dead corners of the galaxy, and he had never encountered anything like this. He was 63 years old. His hair had gone silver. His hands were steady from decades of fine instrument work, but his knees ached in the recycled air, and he needed reading glasses for the small print on navigation charts. He had turned down promotions, transfers, comfortable postings on space stations with artificial gravity and fresh food. He had chosen this. The silence, the patience, the slow revelation of the universe's secrets, and now the universe was offering him the biggest secret of all. As the Ptolemy entered the hexagonal formation, the dark objects began to react, not with light or radiation but with gravity. The ship's hull groaned as tidal forces shifted around them, not enough to be dangerous but enough to be felt. Then came the signal. It wasn't electromagnetic. It wasn't gravitational waves. It was something else entirely, a modulation in the fabric of spacetime itself that the ship's instruments could detect but not classify. The signal pulsed in a pattern. Prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 23. Then the sequence repeated. Then it changed. The new pattern was more complex, a mathematical language built on the primes. Dr. Tanaka spent 18 hours decoding the first layer. What she found made her call Idris to the lab at 3 in the morning, ship time. The signal was a map. The signal wasn't just any map. It was a map of the entire galaxy, rendered in gravitational mathematics. Every star, every planet, every asteroid, every comet, every cloud of dust. But it went further than that. The map showed things that human instruments had never detected, structures of dark matter that formed a vast web connecting the galaxies, corridors of stable spacetime that could be used for faster-than-light travel. And scattered across the map, highlighted with a distinct mathematical marker, were other hexagonal formations, hundreds of them, each one positioned at a junction point in the dark matter web. The dark objects weren't weapons or ships or monuments. They were navigation beacons. Someone had built a highway system spanning the entire galaxy, and the Ptolemy had stumbled onto one of the on-ramps. The deeper layers of the signal took weeks to decode. Each layer revealed more about the builders of the beacon network. They called themselves nothing. They had no name, no language in the way humans understood language. They communicated purely through mathematics and gravitational manipulation. The signal's historical record, encoded in increasingly complex mathematical structures, told a story spanning billions of years. The builders had been the first intelligent life in the galaxy. They had arisen when the universe was young and stars burned hot and fast. They had watched generation after generation of stars live and die, and they had mapped them all. When they realized that their own time was ending, that their species was fading, they had built the beacon network as a gift, a map for whatever came after them, a way to find the paths through the dark. Idris sat alone in the lab, reading the translations, and felt tears on his face for the first time in 30 years. The cartographic authorities' response to his initial report was predictable. They wanted him to return immediately with the data. Military vessels would be dispatched to secure the site. The beacon network would be classified, studied, and eventually exploited. Idris had served the authority faithfully for 4 decades. He had followed orders, filed reports, maintained his instruments, and mapped the dead stars without complaint. But sitting in the lab with the builder's gift spread out before him, he made a decision that would end his career and change human history. He uploaded the entire decoded signal to every open communications channel he could reach. Every university, every news service, every amateur astronomy network, every ship within range. The map of everything, broadcast to everyone. By the time the authorities' warships arrived, the secret would belong to the whole species. The aftermath was everything Idris expected and nothing he regretted. The cartographic authority stripped his rank and revoked his commission. He was recalled, court-martialed, and sentenced to 5 years in a minimum security orbital facility. But the data was free. Within months, independent research teams had confirmed the beacon network. Within a year, the first experimental ships had used the dark matter corridors to travel between star systems in hours instead of years. The galaxy opened up. Colony ships that would have taken generations to reach their destinations arrived in weeks. Trade routes that were economically impossible became profitable overnight. And everywhere, as humanity spread along the ancient highways, they found more beacons, more data, more gifts from the builders who had mapped the way before vanishing into the cosmic night. 5 years later, Idris walked out of the orbital facility a free man. A shuttle was waiting for him, sent not by the authority, but by the newly formed Galactic Cartographic Union, an independent body dedicated to mapping the beacon network and sharing its findings freely with all of humanity. They offered him a ship, not the Ptolemy, which had been impounded, but something newer, faster, equipped with beacon navigation technology. The assignment was simple: keep mapping, keep exploring. Keep finding the gifts the builders had left behind. Idris accepted. He was 68 years old, his knees were worse, and he needed bifocals now, but his hands were still steady, and the universe was larger than he had ever imagined. On his first night aboard the new ship, he pulled out a blank sheet of paper and a fine-tipped pen. He began to draw a star chart by hand, the way he always had. Some traditions, he thought, were worth keeping. Even at the edge of everything new, there was value in the patient, human act of drawing a line between one star and the next, and calling it a road.